Hello, everyone. This is the Cohn Zone. I'm Grant. That's my dad, Lowell. He's wearing his Midwood High School t-shirt. He went to the same high school as Woody Allen, or rather, Woody Allen went to the same high school as my dad. Dad, good to see you.
I'm sorry I'm not dressed up today. Our dear friend Marky Ibanez said we're supposed to look crisp, a blue blazer and a dark tie, but we had a plumber over all morning. We had real problems. I couldn't use the shower or anything, so we're late anyway starting this. So Iggy said it was okay if I came in my Midwood t-shirt.
It is okay. It is okay.
Okay.
Dad, we should talk about Nick Mullens. I went over to your house a couple of nights ago, and we had a really nice bottle of wine, and we had some things to say about Nick Mullens. So let's say them here. I think an interesting way to start would be, now that we've seen Nick Mullens for a game and a half this year and 8 games 2 years ago, we have a pretty good feel for what he does. Is there anything that he does better than Jimmy Garoppolo? Not is he a better player than Jimmy, but is there any aspect of playing quarterback that Nick Mullens does better? I'll start, if that's okay with you.
Sure.
I think there are some things that Nick Mullens does better. I've written them down. And maybe some of these things will fade with experience and exposure to the league. But right now, I think he has more composure and confidence than Jimmy Garoppolo. Jimmy Garoppolo had it when he was younger, but he's torn an ACL. He's lost a Super Bowl. There's a lot weighing on him. And to me, about once a game with Jimmy, he goes through a period where he has the yips, where he's tentative, where he doesn't seem that confident, and he gets over it. But it's like once a game with him, and that's the whole good Jimmy, bad Jimmy thing. We didn't see that from Nick. That's one thing. I think Nick Mullens processes information extremely well. He's a computer on the field, and you can see it. He gets through his reads efficiently and quickly. And then finally, and that's what Shanahan talks about with him being decisive, but finally, I think he understands his physical limitations in a way that maybe Jimmy doesn't, because Jimmy's the guy who lowered his shoulder and wanted that to take on that hit in Kansas City and tore his ACL. Mullens doesn't do stuff like that. Mullens would run out of bounds. Mullens doesn't have a strong arm, but he works within the framework of his athleticism really well and gets the most out of it. I think he understands his limitations in a way that maybe Jimmy doesn't. So those are a few things I've noticed from Nick. Is anything I said unfair, or would you add to any of that?
I think it's entirely fair. I would add, first of all, I want to say we're not trying to start a quarterback controversy.
No.
Please don't think we are. Jimmy's the quarterback. We're former English majors, and we're doing a compare and contrast. And it's an interesting topic. I think that Mullens is a better study before the snap.
Mm-hmm.
He's like Alex Smith. He's a brilliant quarterback before the snap. After the snap, he's brilliant, maybe not at the level of Joe Montana, but he sees things very quickly.
Yes.
And I'd say more quickly than Garoppolo, certainly more quickly than Kaepernick, who was plodding in that regard. Very quick. I think he goes through the progressions quicker, is not more brave than Jimmy, because Jimmy is really brave, but just as brave as Jimmy.
Totally agree.
And he throws to the sideline a little better than Jimmy. Neither is great down the field, frankly. Right. And he throws over the middle almost as good as Jimmy. Now, are we going to do also what Jimmy does?
Yes, absolutely. But we will. And we're going to get to Jimmy. And I have a lot of things to say about what Jimmy does better than Nick. And okay, we're gonna give him his due, but let's stick with Nick for a minute.
Okay.
One more thing that really sticks out to me about Nick Mullens is how confident he is for a backup. I mean, there's a lot of starters who aren't as confident as Nick Mullens. And I would even put Jimmy Garoppolo in that boat right now. He's working back from the ACL thing and the Super Bowl. The Super Bowl was a big deal. If Nick Mullens becomes a full-time starting quarterback and gets the contract that Jimmy Garoppolo has and the pressure that Jimmy Garoppolo has, and ever gets hurt or goes and plays a big game and plays bad in a Super Bowl or a playoff game, he's going to have to deal with the psychology of being a quarterback that he hasn't had to deal with yet, that Jimmy has had to deal with. And I think it's really hard. I mean, you've seen quarterbacks throughout the years kind of deal with that, right? Being blamed for everything. It's tough.
Yeah. I'm going to tell you a story which ties into Mullens.
Okay.
In the huddle, and when they get to the line of scrimmage, the players pay attention to him. Their attitude isn't, you're a backup. And I bring this to 49ers history because one time Steve Young went into a game for Joe Montana. I forget games. I've seen so many. But he went in. And I think maybe Joe got hurt or something. And Steve would kneel down or however he did it and say, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, and we're going to do that. I know people who were in that huddle and they didn't like it. And one of the coaches told me, this was before Steve was a Hall of Famer. This was when he was the second banana. He said, Joe had to earn that. And a lot of people resented that Steve came in and acted as if he was the starter.
Right.
Now, eventually, of course, Steve earned it plus. But what I'm saying is Mullens seemed to have earned it already. And Iggy, it's not easy to do. And that's another thing that he's done. It wasn't gifted to him.
No.
That's a strong word. It wasn't given to him in a way that it was given to Jimmy. Jimmy earned it. But this kid was nowhere like Jimmy. And they didn't give him the Steve Young treatment. They gave him the Joe Montana treatment.
Exactly. I think it's important to compare Nick Mullens and Joe Montana. My generation may not remember that Joe Montana wasn't just anointed. He was a third-round pick. He was a backup. Correct me if I'm wrong, but the first couple of years that he was on the team, it wasn't clear that it was that he was going to be the franchise quarterback down the line. He had to earn it as a backup and develop, right?
And Steve DeBerg was the number one guy. Of course, now you don't even compare them, but Steve DeBerg had a more dominant personality than Joe. Joe is shy. And Joe told me, I never had that much with Joe, but when Joe was very young, he told me, it's kind of hard, Lowell. Whenever we get on the field, Steve has to get the ball first. Steve has to hold, meaning DeBerg, not Young, has to get the ball first. And he was kind of like, what's that all about? Yeah.
It's petty, childish.
And I think that's what he meant. So in any event,
schoolyard stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there was the famous moment that people don't know about. You probably do. We were at a game years and years ago at Candlestick, and DeBerg was the starting quarterback. And I was sitting next to Ira Miller in the press box, and the Niners were driving down the field, I think to take the lead or to tie the game. And Ira said really loud in the press box, "This is about the time he throws the interception." Boom! He threw an interception right then and there, lost the game. Everybody laughed. And Ira got so much respect for that.
And that was just about at the end of the Steve DeBerg era, no?
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
And that really happened. This is about the time he throws the interception.
That's funny. Okay, we'll get to Jimmy in a second. I want to segue with one more topic about Nick Mullens. What's impressive to me about him is how quickly he goes through his reads and reads defenses. Like, how did you do that? How did you learn how to do that? So I think, and one of the things we question with Jimmy and his coaches question with Jimmy is his ability to read defenses and be decisive. That's what they say. So if you look at their backgrounds, Jimmy Garoppolo played at Eastern Illinois, which is a 1AA school. It's a very small school, and it's the best program in its division. Nick Mullens played at Southern Mississippi, which is also a small school, but not 1AA, and it's not the best school in its division. So Jimmy was like the most athletic player on the field. He was going against inferior opponents, and he could sort of play like an athlete. Mullens was going against defenses that were more athletic than his offensive line, than his wide receivers, and which prepares you more for the NFL. Because Jimmy Garoppolo does not have an athletic advantage over NFL linebackers and safeties. He can't run away from them. Mullens already knew that before he got into the NFL. So I think maybe he's just a little bit less in awe of the speed of the game.
I love what you're saying. And there's another thing, maybe innate. Maybe his mind is a little bit of a better computer.
Yeah,
a better football computer. I mean, I've seen this, Some people have it and some people don't.
Okay, now let's talk about Jimmy.
Yeah. I'm not saying Jimmy doesn't have it, but this Nick, he's got a little computer up there.
He's off the charts with that. No question.
I think so.